Hello, and welcome back to the SEO Mastery Summit, Day 2 Q&As. And right now I'm joined by Terry Samuels, and we might have a couple more speakers joining in. Welcome, Terry.
Hello, good to be here.
Excellent. Rumor has it, lots and lots of people have been watching your presentation. So that's
cool. Right
on. We've gotten a whole bunch of questions to go through. And just making sure that the broadcast has been put out everywhere. So should be the case. You can see my Twitter had not been sharing it properly, so you can see people starting to join in. So that's fantastic. Right, we might as well jump into the questions because there's a fair bunch of them, and usually the people joining also have some. Right now I'm joined by Terry Samuels, and we might have a couple more speakers joining in. Welcome, Terry. We'll jump into the question. Right, I'm hearing myself on repeat somewhere.
Yeah, I think I fixed it, so if you don't hear yourself anymore.
All good. Right, so the first question here, I have a huge content site with 1 million plus words that definitely ain't conversion optimized. Would you go around and edit the old content or just focus more on making better content going forward?
As far as converting the content, or
I think basically he's saying that the content is probably not of the highest quality, and basically saying you have more than 1 million words. So if would suggest to rewrite the content or just make sure the new content on the site is better.
I mean, it really depends. I mean, content's one of those things that, there's good pieces of content, there's mediocre pieces of content. On a conversion part of it, though, that would be a Robert thing, because Robert's the master in.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, so he came on at the perfect time. So, I mean, I'm a big believer in trying to write the best content you can. But if you're writing content for a plumber, most of that content has been written anyway. So you're not going to write super high quality content for a plumber, because mainly people that are in the plumber space looking for plumbers, they're not going to spend a lot of time reading stuff anyways. So at least from what we've seen. So
I would also expect if you have more than 1 million words on your site, it's probably not a local business.
Probably not. Yeah, exactly. It's probably not local business. First thing I would do is obviously check and see which is not indexed. That'd be a good place to start. So if you have content that's not indexed, you could definitely rework that content at some point to get it indexed. But as far as converting content, I need to shut my door. As far as converting content, that's a Robert thing. He's the master at it. But yeah, as far as the difference between content, I mean, we really haven't seen much difference between a $200 article and a $40 article. So, but we're in the local space. We're not in the, mommy blog space type of thing. So could be different there. But let me shut my door and Robert, go for it.
Yeah. Morning, Robert. So the first question here, sorry, I think I asked it just before you joined in. So basically, a guy's asking here, saying he have a bunch of content, so around 1 million words of content on his page that definitely isn't of great quality and definitely isn't conversion optimized. So he's saying, would you recommend going back and optimizing the old content, or just focus on writing better content with the new content they publish?
Or are we talking about a blog or landing page? Or?
No, I mean, 1 million words, it definitely won't be one landing page. So I'm expecting it's either affiliate or e-commerce site or something like that.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on where the content is located. It's obviously going to be a lot of work to go back and optimize all that content. But if the pages get traffic, then I think it's worthwhile. Also, it just really depends on the intent of the visitors who are landing on the pages. Are they there for informational purposes? Is it an affiliate page? If I had a little bit more information.
I'll try and ask. Yeah. So what I would say, I mean, I always love the concept of 80-20, right? So obviously I would definitely look at if I have any pages on my website that's getting substantial traffic, like if you feel that they're crap, I'll definitely go and optimize those, right? Just as a first step, right? So pretty much whatever business you have, right? Like it doesn't really matter. So, but that would definitely be the quick one. But let me see if we can get a little bit more information.
Yeah, I think a lot of times too, what we see with our clients is they do have articles that are generating a lot of traffic, and it is mostly informational, but it doesn't hurt to, place a call to action on, at the bottom of the article, including, at the very least, that they could do is share it on their social profiles. I still see a lot of, the article just ends and it's like, there you go, and there's really no call to action whatsoever. So, at the bare minimum, ask them to share the article. If you sell products or services, you can advertise those in the sidebar and not just have, the informational article, as kind of the final, action of the visitor, but for the chance that they may be interested after, consuming the helpful article in learning more about your services or product, you want to have those calls to action there whenever possible. And I still see it's extremely rare that people will write a great informational and helpful article and have any kind of call to action. In fact, these days, like even comments are shut down. And so they reach the end of the article and really their only option is to click back unless they're highly motivated and they start digging through the website's menu.
Yes, I totally agree. Call to actions are amazing. So yeah. Okay, the next question. So basically, this is a local question, so that's your direction, Terry. So I have a local business site that used to rank and used to get a ton. We've seen the exposure go down over the years, and we're now getting very minimal traffic despite keep getting more reviews for the site. So I guess that could be competitors taking over spaces and the likes. Probably need a little bit more background on that one as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the biggest thing that I've seen when websites start just basically losing traffic and losing rankings, the biggest thing we see is just a stagnant website. Nothing's being continually blogged, nothing's being updated. They just assume they're there and they're going to be there forever. And somebody comes up behind them, with a better strategy of content distribution and can overtake them pretty quick. So we're doing tests right now that are just amazing. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're definitely finding a lot better success on the sites that we're blogging every single day compared to the ones that we're doing just once a week. So, but when you have 60 clients, how the hell are you going to blog every day for every one of them? So, so there's definitely some different areas there in the local space. But I do think local sites need to step up their game, content wise. Maybe not as, don't go out and spend $200 for one article, but spend $200 on 10 articles, or something. And at least have a better content strategy, because we all know Google likes to see repetitiveness. And, I had one of our med spas that we lost back in COVID is coming back, and she was surprised to see that her rankings have gone down. And, we put up a maintenance screen. Nobody was doing anything. I mean, you basically were shut down for a year. And so now it's just going to take that much more time to get you back where we were, compared to if we had left the website up and just put a splash screen up and maybe blogged at least once a month or twice a month, then she wouldn't have lost almost everything. But after the right around 13 months, because she was actually in the process of moving before COVID. So she actually got double whammied. But it's important for the local space too. You can't just assume because you're a plumber site, you don't ever need to blog. Those days are over.
I think there's no doubt that Google is definitely rewarding content freshness, obviously of a certain quality, right? Like it needs to be indexed and so on. But yeah, we're seeing the same. I mean, the sites we have where we're blogging daily or multiple times per day, we're definitely seeing some big increases, right? So again, I mean, honestly, we have shifted a lot of our budget from we probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we would have been 50-50 between content and links.
Yeah.
I think nowadays it's more like 80-20 or even 90-10, and we are seeing better results, right? So that obviously doesn't mean that links doesn't matter anything, and most of our sites already have a lot of good foundational links, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I definitely think that the investment in content and content frequency and so on is important.
Exactly.
But again, you also want to so it's not just the frequency, but you definitely also want to make sure that it actually gets to rank for stuff, right? So again, it's not just firing any old crap blog up and just writing stuff because if you end up getting no views and no impressions, then it's definitely not helping you either. So
yeah, and then also go back and read and look at your old content. I mean, we've 4 years ago, 400 words were enough for a page, and now it's more like 1,000 words. So go back and take 2 or 3 of your old blogs, combine them into one, send up some redirects, and regurgitate that content. It doesn't mean you have to. If your blogs, like I had content from 2013. So I spent a weekend and just went through all of that stuff and just regurgitated it into today's type of content. So just because you have old stuff and it's not doing anything doesn't mean you can't regurgitate it. Maria and Moon do that a lot, and it's an important process, because if you just have a blog sitting there, as long as it's still relevant, obviously, but if you have a blog just sitting there doing nothing with no links, no traffic, and nothing's been going on for a year, regurgitate and redirect. Let's try to get that thing moving again. So.
Right, Robert, this one is for you for sure. So when doing conversion rate optimization, what type of improvements do you typically see? So that's obviously also very general, but
yeah, it's a general question, but it's a good question, especially if you're kind of on the outside of conversion rate optimization. It depends on the platform. So with just speaking in a really broad general sense, with respect to e-com, we can, with some basic retunings of the product pages, the product descriptions, and the shopping cart experience, we can usually double conversions. That usually means from 0.5% to 1%, or 1% to 2%. It would be, and then from there, you really have to work hard to get higher than a 2% conversion rate on an e-com site. With service pages or single product sites, like a website that sells a windshield protector, let's say, and that's all they sell. These types of sites can have explosive increases in conversion rates. So we often see typical conversion rates of less than 1%, less than 0.5%. And then when we go in and sometimes we see 2-3% for the better companies and companies that have been working on their websites for longer. But by going in and creating a really great value proposition, sometimes we can double or triple conversion rates if they're really low, just by adding a great value proposition. I've been doing a lot of complete page revamps, and I do everything in Figma now. I used to kind of work with clients and guide them through the process, and then I started doing them in Google Docs, and now I've just decided, well, I better learn how to design websites. And so I've been literally redesigning complete pages in Figma, which is fantastic. And I have my own combination of traditional CRO based on the deep psychology of consumer purchase decisions. And I've combined that with the StoryBrand framework. And when we do a complete page revamp, we're seeing a lot of times quadrupling of conversions. That means 2% to 8%, and in some cases over 10%. So it just really depends on how much work we do on the page. But generally speaking, if you're just getting started with conversion rate optimization and you have a single product or a service page, the best thing you can do is create a fantastic value proposition and just spend hours, creating headline, subheadline, bullet points, and answering solving the 7-second test, the 3 questions in 7 seconds. Where am I? What can I do here? And why should I do it? And making sure that, the top of your landing page or your web page before you scroll, is easily understandable by somebody who's in 5th grade. Like, that's how clear the value it has to be. So anyway, sorry for the long answer, but.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, it was a very general question, right? But yeah, I like that. And I think, personally, I've previously worked with someone like Kurt Phillip, and they generally sort of promise a 30% increase or money back kind of thing. So again, like, that's usually what I take at the baseline. I'm kind of like, when 30% will make enough financial sense for me, then I start looking at engaging someone for CRO. Full disclosure, my team generally isn't particularly focused on it, but again, we love hiring people who are the best at what they do when they're doing it, right? So
yeah, and interestingly, Kurt Phillips' Convertica.org page, he's got a multi-step form there. He's proud of letting everybody know that form converts at around 10%. So if you want a good example of a great, website, a great landing page, just go to Convertica.org and copy what he's doing. There's a lot of deep psychology in that form. It engages the sunk cost fallacy, and it basically breaks down the call to action to bring it back to call to action to the most basic call to action there is, which is a click. And then you click once and you're like, well, I better keep clicking to get to the end. That's the sunk cost fallacy. It's like you start something and you feel compelled to finish. That's the kind of genius of his form. And I'd like to do more and more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think, it's interesting, right? We always try and basically look at, we want to master one particular area that we feel we're very good at, right, in-house, and then we really try and find experts for the rest of it, just because, again, like, it's good to have a basic knowledge and a decent understanding, right? But I think for most things, we definitely like engaging sort of the best of the best for various things, right? So, okay, I think that's very good. So there's a schema question here, and basically, this guy is like, we have previously used a plugin that enabled schema on all pages. Is it really worth doing it manually for each page?
Oh, that's for Terry for sure. He's the schema master. I got started on schema with Terry.
It depends on a couple different things. Schema is, in my mind, the biggest thing that everybody needs to do right now. And it's only because of the crawl problems. The crawl budgets, just having your pages indexed. All that stuff is a real royal pain in the ass for all of us right now. And Schema seems to help all of that. So, and you mentioned that you have a site-wide with plugins. First of all, I can tell you it's probably not doing you any good whatsoever. It's going to be okay when somebody audits your competitor's website, because they're not going to be able to say, hey, you don't have schema. But it's not the schema that's going to convert. It's not, I mean convert with Google. I don't mean convert with a person. So one of the big things to remember about schema is the stuff that's important, a tool is not going to find. So one of my big things is, especially around lawyers, doctors, the medical field, the information that you need to find about that doctor, about that surgeon, about that, clinic, about that hospital, a tool's not going to do that. So a tool is going to give you very, very basics of what the tool can go out and find. And it is just that. It's just basics. So Rank Math has a good tool. SEO Press Pro has a good tool, but they're still very, very, very inadequate. So what I tell people is the three most important schemas is the site-wide, at least the top level service schema, and then the location schema. So everything else you can kind of get away from or just work towards. But I'm doing I just finished last week a big e-com site, and it was a month process because we did the site-wide, and then we did all the brands, and then we only did a few products. They only did the 80-20 rule. So we only did 20% of the best products, and that was to save money. So because it's not easy to do, and there's a lot of research because of it. But the brand is so important on the e-com side. And then once the brand is done, and you pick 10 products from this brand, 10 from this brand, so on and so forth. And then as you add, and maybe you have some variable to say, hey, when this product gets to so many clicks or so much traffic, we're going to add schema. You can do that in a full wide system. But like I said, the site wide, that's why we do site wide very first off. So because then it's going to, the site wide is going to give Google 100% different view of your website, guaranteed, because they're going to get to see things that they might not have seen before. Whether you have a crawl problem or whether you're putting in a different title, a different description. Like one of the lawyer sites I did, this lawyer on the about page was just talking about his master degree. Well, this guy had seven different degrees, and we put all that in the schema. So he might not want it on the public side, but Google wants it for trust, for authority, for everything else that we're trying to build out. And schema gives you that possibility. Another thing that people don't realize with schema is misspelled words. You can now rank misspelled words in schema that you don't want to put on the front page or on the page itself because it makes you look like a blooming idiot. But, if you have a marijuana site, it's one of the most common misspelled words on the planet. Put those misspelled words in the schema.
That's smart.
So that's the nice thing about schema. So it's a loaded question when you want to ask me if every page needs it. Your important pages need it. Put it that way. So if a page isn't as important, like if you have, we have clients that, I don't really want to get many laser hair removal clients because I don't make any money on them. So, okay, well, we'll just make that page the last priority for the services that we do. So, and then ever since we switched our schema system to an a la carte, we actually give people an option to say, pick and choose which pages. We're going to give you different line items to choose from because it's a building process.
Yeah.
So, but that's, again, it's a loaded question. If I think you need it on every page, yes, minus the privacy, thank yous, forms, don't put it on those pages. But if it's what quote unquote a money page, then yes, you need it. That's the bottom line. So
excellent. That was a very helpful answer, I think.
I'd like to also add that I keep hearing that question. I keep seeing it posted in SEO Signals Lab, some Skype groups that I'm in. What Terry didn't say is it's been tested like repeatedly that yes, it's worth your while to go and handwrite your schema.
Right. Good point. Right. So the next one is a local GMB. So a guy here saying, I've got a local service business. However, considering changing the name, we have neither keyword or location in our business name or domain, and I feel it's hurting us. What should I do?
Loaded question in my mind. In GMBs right now, we keep everything branded and keyword. We might put in the location, but it's always going to include the brand. So like Salterra Web Design Scottsdale, that'll be the name of the GMB. We don't do Web Design Scottsdale anymore, or Scottsdale Web Design or anything like that. So include the brand, but it's also changing the name is the number one thing that causes a suspension. flat out. So
yeah, I think this guy was actually thinking about changing his company name.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's again, I'm a brand guy. So I don't, even if I had a local service business, and I do have clients that have local service business, and they're actually kind of running into a problem because I've got an HVAC company up in New Jersey, and they want to go into roofing, and they wanted to add it to their HVAC site. Well, if it would have just been the company name.com, they could have easily added both services to the site. But since they started with brand HVAC.com, they're trapped to that. They might eventually be able to rank for roofing, but it's going to be so much harder than to just build a second website. So, like I said, a brand gives you full expansion. Local service, really, I've seen so many people get trapped by it. And it's, even my partner, Justin, Rising Phoenix SEO, Phoenix SEO wasn't the reason he named that. The name of his company is Rising Phoenix. It just happens to be Phoenix SEO. And so when we try to rank in Scottsdale and Tucson and Tempe and all the other cities around Phoenix, it's tough. There's no doubt about it. He does have a tough time getting around those other cities just because of the Phoenix SEO, trap.
Interesting. Yeah, and I never thought about that. I've never seen an example of that before, but yeah, that totally makes sense where you kind of brand yourself out on a location like that. Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so next question. Sorry, questions got lost on me. So how do I get higher ticket clients? I'm currently working with mostly local clients, and I struggle to get more than $1,000 a month per client. What's the best strategy with local businesses to make more money?
Another loaded question. It really depends. I still have my very first client I got 7 years ago. He still pays me $200 a month. The only thing I do differently is that I make him take me out for sushi every quarter. So
Terry, I want to add that's exactly us. We still have the very first client we got 7 years ago. He still pays us $300 a month. That's exactly same here. Yeah,
exactly.
That's a good service, right?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But he also knows that if I was to take on anything like him now, it would be at least $2,000 a month. So, the biggest thing that I tell people to look at when you're pricing your services is, number one, what are your hard costs? And you better have hard costs. I have one guy come to me and said, I'm just not having any luck getting clients. And I'm like, okay, well, how do you do your spend? And he was basically pocketing 90% of the spend. So I'm sorry, you can't do that. And we have so many out there that do, and it hurts the clients. So what are your hard costs, first of all? So, and then hopefully by the 4th, 5th, or 6th month, you should be on a pretty good profit margin. You should really make hardly anything the first 2 months, if you're doing it right, and you put a price on your time. So a lot of people say, well, I paid $300 for links. Okay. Well, how long did you work on it? Well, I worked 50 hours on it. Well, guess what? That's a hard cost. You have to do that as a business. Otherwise, you have no clue what your pricing is or how to even price things out.
Yeah.
So, and $1,000 a month is not. I've got clients that I just did a bid last week for $800 a month. It's an easy niche. It's a niche I'm super familiar with. It's in a small town, so there's not a lot of problem going to be for this. But if you're wanting HVAC in Phoenix in the middle of July, I'm not going to touch you for under $2,500. There's no way. So, but again, it takes, I'm not always this way. I'm actually pretty cocky now. I turn a lot more business away than I accept. And only because I've gotten to the point that drama is the number one thing. Pricing is not anymore. So I would rather lose money than to have a problem client. That's just, and we've all had that. So, but for a new person, I get it. Trust me, man, I was freaking taking everything that I could grab a hold of at the beginning. But as I got more confidence, as I niched down and got more confidence in the niche, and I focused in certain states, so I got to know the state. So, and then you just Now, when you're more confident, you get more success, you have better case studies, you can charge more money. Kind of the bottom line.
Yeah, know your cost, right? I mean, I think that's probably the one thing I talk with most agencies about, because so many people they don't calculate their own cost, right? They're like, oh yeah, I can build you 20 links a month, and it's going to be this amount of money. And I'm like, how are you going to pay for that? Oh no, I'll just do it myself because you can do it for free. And I'm like, nothing.
I'd like to chime in a little bit too, because I think that it's probably the most common question for agency owners who are just starting out. It's like, how do I get customers? The first thing you can do is work on somebody's site for free, so you can get a case study up. That'll help you when you do have some prospects. But I mean, go guerrilla. When I go back to 2001, I became an entrepreneur because I had to. I couldn't get a job as an IT person, so I started my own computer repair company, and I was like, I had no money. So what did I do? I printed out business cards on my printer. I printed out flyers. I went around with an office stapler, and I stapled my flyers to telephone poles. I went to parks. I got my business cards. I posted them at car washes. Grocery stores have bulletin boards. A lot of restaurants have bulletin boards. Malls have bulletin boards. You can put your business cards there. I went to local businesses, and I printed out a little flyer, making it about them, not like, hey, we're this and that, but saying, hey, you can get this, you can get this, you can get this, and we can help you. That's the format. You get this, you get this, you get this, you get this, and we're the company to help you. And I stapled, believe it or not, little candies. I think it was around Easter, whatever the theme is. Like, I stapled Easter candies to my flyers, and I walked around to local businesses, and I got customers. And one of my customers ended up being a doctor at USC, and he invited me to do his computers for his home, and then his brother's home, and then I ended up years later becoming a USC certified contractor, and they did hundreds of thousands of dollars of business with me because I passed the flyer out with this candy staple to it. So go guerrilla. Don't just sit there. These customers are not going to come to you, not at first. Like, I'm lucky today. I got 3 new customers. It was a crazy day. Like 3 new SEO clients, paying monthly recurring clients. That doesn't happen every day. Sometimes I go weeks without a new customer. Sometimes months, right? But I'm lucky enough that we have dozens of customers that pay us on a monthly basis. And going back to my computer repair business, the reason I still have that very first customer, like Terry, is I fixed his computers first, and I had a computer repair store, and that was our in, right? So, and then I'm in a course right now. It's Lisa Parzali's course. It's an agency owner's course, and she uses something called the foot in the door technique. Go out and offer something inexpensive, like, hey, 500 business cards for $5. It's going to cost you $15-20. You're going to lose money on it, but so what? You get your foot in the door, and they're like, oh, thanks for printing out the business card. You're like, hey, do you need help with you need a website? You need some flyers made? You need a logo? Whatever it is you do, do you need SEO? You need help with PPC? Once they know you and you've provided value to them, they're way more likely to do business with you. But, going from, nothing to $2,000 a month when you're a nobody, you're gonna face an extremely uphill battle. So my advice to you is, and another really great story. I ran into another SEO guy because we both like skateboarding, right? We started talking and this and that. And I'm like, how do you get customers? This was a few years ago, and we kind of lost touch. And then COVID hit, and I reached out to him like, hey, how's it going? And he's like, good. I'm like, so what have you been up to? He's like, well, before COVID, there's an organization called SCORE, this Service Corps of Retired Executives. It's a free organization. They'll match you up with a mentor, and that's a whole separate conversation. I did get a mentor, an amazing one who, and SCORE has these presentations they do. They used to do them in person, and they're generally they're free or like $20 or whatever. And what he did was he created a page on the SCORE site to do these free SEO presentations, and then he SEO'd his page on the SCORE site so that SEO lessons, SEO tutorials, SEO, everything related to SEO lessons. He showed up first. Los Angeles, he showed up first on the first page. And so what happened was he ended up getting 30, 40 people would come to every single event. And every month when he did these, he would close at least 1 to 2 new clients every month from doing these. And now he does them online, same thing, 30, 40 people show up. He gets 1 to 2 customers a month from doing these free presentations. So there's all kinds of ways to get new customers. Just go guerrilla. Like the best thing you do is just pound the pavement. Go out, introduce yourself to local business owners. Don't be shy. Go out there and say, hey, I'm down the street, and I'd love to help you, get more customers or whatever.
And Fergal got a new name for you. So
go guerrilla. Yeah. Guerrilla, Guerilla. It's actually from one of my favorite marketing books. And this is really old. This is Guerrilla Marketing Attack, right? This is from one of the first ones I bought. I think this is from like 1990. But yeah, I've been into marketing for a long time.
And actually, it reminds me a lot about the way I started pretty much all of my businesses. So I've always been pretty shit at marketing and all that good stuff. As you can probably see on the summit as well. But generally the way I've always gotten clients is basically through the meeting people, right? So
yeah.
What I've done is I've stayed as far away from local business meetups as possible, because that was at least where I was living in the UK at the time and so on. That was literally just a business card flinging, and that gave you nothing. But basically what I did was I joined all these crazy network groups of human beings. That could be like learn Spanish or learn how to play a guitar, or actually one of the ones that worked out best for me was like Toastmasters, so like public speaking.
Yeah.
I went to all these different meetups because the whole point was, again, my goal is not to say buy my stuff. My goal when I do that is to meet people, help them, and occasionally they ask what you do, and then you share it with them. Now, often my experience was that they were not the ones needing it, but they would call me up and say, hey, I have a friend that needs this sort of thing you do. Can you help them? And they would actually give me like a recommendation, even though they never seen me do my magic, just because they met you and you're, I assume, a not horrible person, and so on, right? So I've always used that strategy for starting up both my coaching business, my outsourcing business, and so on. And I really love it as a way to run a business up, right? Like when you're making $100,000 a month and you need to get to $1 million, that's probably not the way. But when you're needing your first 10, 20, 50, 100 clients, like that kind of direct approach can work very well, right?
Yeah, and I'd like to add, unless I'm interrupting Terry, he wants to add something. No. I was in a networking group called LeTip. It's a group called LeTip International, but they're mostly here in North America. And I think last time I checked, they have 600 or 700 or 800 chapters. And I would show up every morning at 6 a.m., every Friday morning at 6 a.m. at the corner of the Olympic Collection here in West Los Angeles. For 9 years I did that. And it was one of the best things I ever did for my business. I used to get about 20 to 30 computer repair jobs a month from that group. Now, that said, I used to go to Chamber of Commerce mixers and get nothing. I'd get the opposite. I'd get a bunch of people trying to sell me stuff. So you have to pick your business networking groups really well. Another one that's been really good for people, although I've never been in one, is BNI. And that's a really good one. So be careful, play around with them. And even if you don't get business, what I've found from going to Toastmasters and going to LeTip for 9 years and participating in other business mixers is you absorb the energy of other people around you. If you're behind the desk all day long, you got to get out and meet people. You have to. And plus, you'll learn, like my LeTip group had 120 other members, and every one of them was a unique business, meaning there's no duplication of business. 120 members, 120 separate businesses. There was no competition allowed in the group. That's what's so great about LeTip. It costs like $1,200 a year, so it keeps out the riffraff, and the people are required to do business with other people in the group or they get kicked out. So you're guaranteed to get customers. It's guaranteed. And when you do SEO and the lifetime value of a customer at $500, $1,000, $2,000 a month, it's worth the price of admission. But again, it's just helpful getting out and meeting people, absorbing energy. I used to leave Friday mornings, I'd wake up and like, crap, so early. And then I'd leave the meeting like energized and just, full of ideas and inspired by all the other business people who were, waking up every day and kicking ass and not letting anything get in the way of their success.
And I think, I've done that extremely well with niching down, right? And I think, I've done initially SEO since 2007, right? But SEO has never been my main business, right? So what happened was I stopped for a couple of years and so on, and then I got back in. But really the main reason why I got back in was, I do a lot of management consulting, I do a lot of outsourcing and all this good stuff. And the main reason I got back in was really because of that. I was looking around and I'm like, yeah, my management coaching work with pretty much anyone that have a business and have staff. But again, like, you need to niche down. And I basically just went around the whole SEO world and, make sure you build up a brand, make sure, like, I've worked with most of the bigger guys in particular affiliate and so on and so forth, right? So that way you build yourself a brand, and when people hear your name many times, like, often if people just hear your name once, it won't create your business. But when you have 8 friends all telling you, go talk with this guy, like, eventually they'll go do it.
Yes, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, and I would say rank a site. It's most of my leads come from organics. I rank for some pretty incredible keywords nationally, and it's the nice thing about those, you don't get, our close rate is super high just because of the fact they found us on search. So I don't have to do the whole thing about does search work, blah, blah, blah. But it's still, you get a lot of tire kickers. You still get a lot of people that just kind of waste your time. And there's ways. I saw the question come up. One of the biggest ways I filter out clients is I have a massive discovery form. If you're going to spend 15 minutes to fill out my form, you're pretty serious about wanting to talk to us about something. And we do that on purpose. And mainly because if you just have a simple contact form and, they put it out and they're, hey, we got a lead. And then they never answer their phone. They never reply to your email. Yeah. The bots nowadays are just freaking nuts as far as, spam. So that's the biggest way I do it. My second big flag with, weeding out clients is, I know how to do this, but I just don't have time. Well, I'm out of here. I won't even go down that road anymore because they don't know. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to spend the money that you're getting ready to charge them. So that's just bottom line. So
Terry, can I ask you something? Like, do you think, like, if you're just starting out, do you have to pay your dues? Like, can you even know who's going to be a nightmare client at first? Because you're just desperate to get customers.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. You are, and that's your first thing to know. And I can tell you, the very first goal you need to get to in your business is to be able to let those drama clients go. Mm-hmm. So, that's a goal that you need to have written down on your whiteboard. Whether it's a monetary thing, whether it's a confidence thing, whatever it is, these drama clients can really ruin your freaking day. And most of the time they ruin your day, it's because of something that's going on in their life or their business that has nothing to do with you. You were just the unlucky sap that answered the phone. Yeah. When you start to talk to people, I can pretty much tell within the first couple minutes, like Robert and Mads, if you're going to be a good fit for me. So, because like I said, I'm not going to go out and learn a new niche unless you're going to pay me a whole bunch of money. But if you're in an area, I get calls all the time. Hey, can you do negative SEO? No, I don't do that crap. So you just got to, have ethics, have honesty. You're going to have to pay your dues for, 100% guaranteed. But my biggest advice I can tell you if you're new to SEO is stop selling SEO. Sell web design. It's 10 times easier. SEO is just the natural next step. Even if you don't do websites, find somebody that'll build them for you. You can get them pretty cheap, and you can sell them pretty cheap. And now you've got a good foot in the door because you just solved an issue that they have. Help them with the GMB. Learn everything you can about a GMB. But to sit there and talk to some roofer that's had every frickin' spam email for the last frickin' 5 years, you're not going to close this guy. So unless you've got some seasoned, you've been recommended by another person or something going on. But, just be realistic about it. But selling SEO nowadays is the hardest thing in our industry.
I'm going to have to chime in and say that of all the things that I've learned from Terry, that's the one that has reverberated in my brain the most. And I would like to second that. It is extremely tough to sell SEO, and it's way better to sell something less expensive and get your foot in the door, and then have the potential to do SEO. So we're retooling everything we do based on what Terry just said, and it's just way smarter. Sell SEO, have your SEO page. You need that, but start and promote your website design keywords first. Don't rely, and a lot of times too, your SEO keywords, you rank them, they're going to give you crappy leads. You got to get hundreds of leads to get one good customer.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I just wanted to agree with that. It's changed the way that I think of it, of my agency, and we're going to redo everything on our website to focus more on selling the websites, because the other counterpart to that is kind of related to conversion rate optimization. It's most people don't even know what SEO is. So you're selling something, people don't buy what they don't understand. Everyone knows what a website is though, right? So your market is vast with website. When people know what SEO is, it's like Terry says, they're hammered with cold emails, or they're asshole attorneys who are going to be terrible to work with, clients like that. I hate to, be crass, but that's the truth. That's just my experience. That's most people's experience. So.
Yeah. So I would say my experience is the total opposite. So
Really?
The primary horror I have with web design is the fact that running a web design agency is 80% sales. And here's the thing, most SEOs are horrible salespeople. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if you start selling web design as your main business, web design is literally just find client, because in a lot of cases, when you're done with one, you're like, oh, there's nothing to do. There's no money coming in. And then you get desperate and hung up, right? So I totally agree with Terry's sort of mindset. And again, if you are a web developer, it's an easy route. But I am a sucker for businesses that pay you consistently every month.
Yeah, no, I want to chime in there because it's not as simple as Terry and I made it seem. I agree. I'll take one SEO customer versus 50 websites any day of the week. That recurring revenue is where it's at. That's why I got into this business. So my advice is this: sell your websites, but when you're evaluating the customer, look at the potential that there will be more to do, the potential of SEO. And if there isn't, or even if there is, price your website high, really high. I found it's very difficult to make money with websites unless you really price them well. You've got to overcharge. You're not really overcharging because everything seems to be drawn out and take longer, and all these, you get 3 sets of revisions kind of go out the window, and you end up, doing all kinds of free work and stuff. Websites suck. I can't stand making websites, but as a foot in the door, knowing that the end goal is SEO, if you can see that big picture, I think it can work really well.
Yeah. And you got, I had a guy today, and I don't know what this guy's going to do, but he took $1,500 for this brand new client and messaged me and wants me to give him some pricing on some stuff. And it's a GoDaddy Builder site. And I'm like, you're screwed, dude. You give the money back They need a new website. You can't install anything on the back end of GoDaddy that's going to do any kind of good. And he goes, well, I didn't even know it was a GoDaddy website. And I said, well, that's kind of the first thing you need to find out is what kind of website are you dealing with? You just took this person's money and now you're wanting somebody to provide this magic fix. It's not there. So, at least learn the basics before you start taking people's money. And, I'm sure he spent it. I'm sure, all the stuff. So, but this kid's in trouble, and the sad thing is he's probably not going to say anything and just continue to take the money. That's the common thing we see in this business. But
it sounds like a new niche to me. GoDaddy website builder SEO.
Exactly. Yeah. If you can figure that out. So, but yeah, it's just So again, when I first got into this business, my first client I still have, it was a negative SEO situation. He got hammered with the first Google animal because he had been buying porn links, didn't even know he wasn't supposed to. And that's the way people used to rank sites. And so, I learned the negative way to get people out of problems. And I had to learn a bunch of different technologies to do that. I had to learn a bunch of, I didn't even know what WordPress was back then. I was still building HTML sites. That's my background I'm an HTML, CSS guy, Dreamweaver guy. So, this whole WordPress or open source thing was just new to me. And, but I had to learn it. Otherwise I wouldn't take this guy's money. If I didn't think I could help him, I wouldn't have done it.
This takes me back to my early days. I remember building one of my first websites, or not the first, but one of the first in GeoCities, I think it was. That is many moons ago.
GeoCities, wow.
Yeah, for sure. So,
right. So, just one comment just to track back a little bit. So in terms of red flags, so I have a couple of things that I generally advise people to do, right? So the first thing is pay your bills, right? If you're an entrepreneur, if you have bills to pay, the first thing is pay your bills, right? Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to function as a human being if you don't know how to pay your bills, because all of your freaking brain power is going to be like, oh, I need to pay rent on Friday, and oh, I need to put food in the fridge and all that kind of stuff, right? So, in the beginning, pay your bills, right? It's number one. And after that, basically what I say, when people start getting a little bit above that level, I say, look at niche, right? So basically look at, with the clients you've managed to get and with the money you've made, what are the best clients, right? And they are not always the best niche, but, if you at least have a starting point, if I had 4 restaurants I work with and they were all super easy, or, they're all paid on time or whatever it is, right? But look at your first 10 clients or 15, 20 clients or whatever, and see what is the best clients you've had. And honestly, a lot of the ways, that's how most people start out, and it's a decent way to do it, right? It doesn't mean you get the niche to start with, but it's initially you just want to build a business that's actually bringing you in a certain size of income, right? Mm-hmm. So the second is pick the niche, and then the third step is bring more clients in within that scope, and then, as Terry said, gradually start letting go of some of the people who might be a horror. And what happens in the beginning, you will have clients where you're spending more money doing the work than they're paying you, and obviously you want to get rid of them. You want to do it in a sensible way, because again, everyone is a potential referral, right? But you can definitely go to people and say, super sorry, I totally underestimated the amount of work that was going to be behind that. The competition looks a lot higher, whatever, and therefore say, in a month or in 2 months or whatever, I would like to stop, right? I totally understand what your budgets are, but for me to do this effectively, I would have to charge you 3-4 times as much money or whatever, right? So there's definitely sensible ways to do that. Don't just start screaming and shouting at people and stuff.
Yeah, we have monthly strategy calls, and then every 90 days we reevaluate the project for pricing.
Yes, I love that. So how often do you increase the
probably about 30%, and then we probably have 20% we actually decrease. So, if they've been a client for a while, we can take them back down to what's called just a basic month maintenance plan. Because again, I don't just take money to take money. So, if my hard costs go from 1,000 down to 300, then I've got some adjustment in there, and it kind of saved my butt when COVID hit, because I was able to lower a lot of prices for people that were shut down. Not everybody, but I was able to keep some on, and we lost. I don't know if you guys know, but I lost 21 medical spas. So when COVID hit, and that's about $60,000 a monthly income that was gone. So we niched down and got hammered. So, but we still had our home service clients, which is our other niche. So we still have, other niches that are doing fine. It's just that we weren't prepared. Nobody was prepared for that. So, and now we're starting to slowly get some of them back that we're able to hold out. I think about 7 or 8 had to file bankruptcy or are planning on file bankruptcy. They're not going to come back. So, again, it's okay. It's just, at the very beginning, I felt good to be able to at least try to help some of them. But then after even a few months of this thing, not knowing how long it was going to last, then I couldn't even help them beyond that, just because they couldn't even pay me anything, because they just weren't bringing any income in. So, but it's just one of those things. Jess and I are now, now the med spas are coming back, and we're just, it's one of our favorite niches, because, it's real entrepreneurs. I'm not saying roofers aren't or plumbers aren't, but people that have medical spas and brick and mortar buildings and stuff where they have some pretty good investments, they tend to listen to consults a little bit better, I guess you could say. So most roofing companies I don't even hear from. Hey, can we have a monthly call? Nah, too busy. So, okay.
Yeah. So, well, you're making them too busy, I assume. So.
Well, and we another thing we do, we run pay-per-click for everybody, even if you're a monthly SEO client. So
really,
so I want you guys to start getting, I want my clients to start getting leads as soon as humanly possible. So I'll take a portion of their spend and run ads 3 or 4 days a week. Most of the time they don't even know I'm doing it. But at least they're starting to get some sort of traction while I'm building up the process. So it just makes sense to me to do that.
That's it's a very good strategy. I mean, when I talk with most agencies, again, I keep telling them all generally, don't sell SEO, sell the outcome, sell the leads, and I'm not saying you're selling leads individually, but I'm saying, make commitments based on the leads, right? So if you're signing up a client and you're like, the niche, and you're like, okay, my expectation is that, we can get you a minimum 5 leads a month, right? And the whole thing, for me, it's all building this kind of ladder of how do you increase the price? Because really what you want to do, it's not just increase the price to make more money, but the whole thing is the best clients you have is the people who pay you the most money generally. And the reason they pay you the most money is because you help their business the most. Mm-hmm. So if you build a solid system where you're like, okay, we're going to start you out at, $1,500 a month or whatever. And we expect to be able to deliver you minimum 5 leads a month, right? Now, if you know the customer's numbers well and you want to ask for this, if you then basically build on that and say, okay, we're 3 months in, we've delivered you at least 5 leads a month, which means you're making money. Now, are you ready to spend more money to make and get more leads, right? And that's my favorite way to basically build up the value, because when you show people that you bring the value to the table, they're much more likely to actually pay you more money, right? But the problem, the way people generally position SEO is like they're saying, yep, buy SEO, it's $2,000 a month. And then if you come to them and say, oh, now we want to charge $3,000, and they're like, hey, you said SEO is $2,000 a month. Why do you want $3,000? And they're basically setting expectations that are often hard to move away from, instead of the opposite, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're playing around with the whole leads per month model, because I do like the fact. I mean, with this, we had a call today, and this lady's brand new. She's the owner, but never really had anything to do with the ownership of the business, and so now she's asking a lot of questions that she just really doesn't even know what to kind of ask, and so. I'm like, man, this would be a perfect one to say, look, we're going to give you 40 leads a month. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars. We're not going to have these conversations about where the leads come from as long as they're good qualified leads. So we're kind of playing with that because I like that model. A lot of the larger, really niche down. There's a dental group, a dental marketing group that does it that way. There's a lawyer marketing group that does it that way. So it just kind of seems to be an easier conversation when you're getting leads. And that's why I started doing pay-per-click, with everybody, because I've got a guy, a spray foam contractor, come on board with us, and 48 hours after he's on board with us, we got a $300,000 spray foam deal. And he's like, "How'd you do that?" Pay-per-click. It's just like, I'm a magic maker, and but it felt. I mean, I'll have this guy for a long freaking time. He's been with me 3 years, almost 4, and he'll never leave just because of that first 48 hours. He just. And so that's the reason why we do it. I don't like confrontational phone calls when I'm trying to explain processes to people that just don't understand the process. So it's just easier to talk about how many phone calls you got, how many form fills you got. Let's just talk about traffic. I really try to get people off of rankings as soon as humanly possible, just because it's the one variable we can't control. But and now Google's playing games with us with traffic. We're finding analytics is being off about 33%. So that's also pissing us off. So we're, which hurts all of us. Google gives us these tools to use and they're not accurate. It's like, what the hell?
Excellent. Well, guys, we have already been on for more than an hour. So thank you very much for joining. And I'd say, Robert, go Gorilla, Portillo, good to have you.
Go Gorilla. Go Gorilla. Go Gorilla.com. Let's see if we can get that name for Robert right now.
Awesome, guys. Thank you very, very much for joining.
Thanks, Mads. Good seeing you, Terry.
Good seeing you, Robert. Thank you, guys. Reach out if you guys got any questions. I'm here.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Good job, Mads.